All right, here we go. This is Math 2, Unit 12. It's really Unit 12B. We split this unit into two sections. So either your teacher's calling it 12B, Objective 2, or it could be 12-6, which is their first objective. Just depends on how they write it here. The thing is, look at the topic. This is called Completing the Square, and this is the reteaching exercise that goes from the textbook. And I'm going to do a few problems here, kind of some samples, to guide you through this process. What we're looking at here is taking binomials here and figuring out how to determine turning into perfect square trinomials, and then to do that we have to complete the square at times to make this work. So it's a simple process really. So to do this, let's look at number 1. What you're going to do essentially is you're going to take the number that's in front of the variable a, and we're going to divide that by 2, and then we're going to square the whole thing. Okay, and that's the essential process here. It shows you up here the directions on how to make that work. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what is the value of c that'll make this a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so that's our goal. So when 8 is divided by 2, you end up with 4, and 4 squared becomes 16. So what we're showing here is that if I was to put 16 in the place of c, I would actually have a squared plus 8a plus 16, and then from that, what that's telling me is I could then rewrite it this way to make it a plus 4 squared, and now I have a perfect square trinomial, so I could rewrite it. We're going to need to do that in some future activities, so that's somewhat the idea of what we're aiming for. We're trying to solve for c to make the whole equation, the whole expression, a perfect square trinomial. And the way we do that, again, let's look at this next one. We take the second term, the negative 16, we'll divide it by 2, and we'll square the whole thing. So negative 16 divided by 2 is a negative 8, but a negative 8 squared is equal to 64. And that's all we end up doing. So our answer for this one is c equals 64. For number 3, same idea. We take the 20, divide it by 2, and square the whole thing. So 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 10 squared is 100. So again, if I was to put that back into place there, what it was showing me is that my perfect square trinomial is m squared plus 20m plus 100, which could be rewritten essentially as m, because the positive here, I'm going to do m plus 10, because 10 times 10 is 100, and I can rewrite it that way. Alright, let's look down here at number 8. Number 8 I'm going to do, because 4, 5, 6 are very similar to what's above, but number 8 and 9 give you a little different type of answer. We have to remember that even though there's no number there, there is kind of that mystery 1, right? There's always a 1 in front of the variable, even if you don't see it. So this becomes negative 1 over 2 squared. And a negative 1 over 2, you could think of it this way if you need to. We're saying what is negative 1 over 2 times negative 1 over 2. And negative 1, no, it's going to be positive obviously. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 2 is 4, and a negative times a negative becomes a positive. So my solution here is 1/4. So I wanted to show you that one because it's a little different getting a fraction as an answer. Same is true for number 9. We have 3, and so I'll do 3 divided by 2 squared. And again, squared just means multiplied by itself, so you could write it out this way. And we get 3 times 3 is 9 over 4. And that is my solution for number 9. Let's look at the back side. Going to look at some of the ones on the bottom down here. And we're going to solve each equation by completing the square and round to the nearest hundredth if we need to. So this one's a little different. So to solve this one, I'm going to actually use some paper below because I need a little more space here. So let's look at number 10. For number 10, we have b squared plus 10b equals 75. My first step is going to be to complete the square, which means I'm looking for that kind of plus c value that I could put here to turn this whole side of the expression or equation into a perfect square trinomial. So I'm looking for a number I can add to this, but to make it balance, I'd also have to add it over there. To do that, I'll do the same process I did on the first side, which is take this number 10, divide it by 2, and square it. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 5 squared is 25. I'm going to take this number now, and I'm going to add it to both sides of my equation and rewrite it like so. b squared plus 10b plus 25 equals 75 plus 25. Make sure you add it to both sides to make this work here. Now I can kind of combine some things up. So b squared plus 10b plus 25 is equal to 100. Our next step then is to recognize, because we made this a perfect square trinomial, that now I can rewrite this as b, and I have 25. What number times itself gives you 25? Well, that's going to be a 5 here. And to determine whether or not I'm going to put this as a positive or negative, you look at the middle term. Because it's positive there, this will also stay positive. You'll have some negative ones coming up in a second. So I rewrite this as b plus 5, and the whole thing squared, equals 100. I'm not done yet, because I'm trying to solve this. To get rid of the squared, I will take the square root of both sides, which eliminates the radical and the squared from this side. And this becomes plus or minus, the square root of 100 is 10. So we continue on with the problem there. So I'm going to now subtract 5 to both sides, from both sides. So this becomes negative 5 plus or minus 10. And from here I just find my two solutions. Negative 5 plus 10 is going to be, in this case, negative 5 plus 10 is 5. And negative 5 minus 10 is a negative 15. So those are my two solutions for this equation. Okay, 5 and negative 15. Let's look at number 11 together. Same idea. We have y squared minus 18y, and we're trying to complete the square by finding out what c is going to be. That's our goal first of all. So I take a negative 18 over 2 squared. Negative 18 over 2 is a negative 9. Negative 9 squared is going to be equal to 81. That becomes my c value. So now I'm going to rewrite this as y squared, minus 18y plus 81 equals 63 plus 81. Now they're giving us some nice numbers to work with, so here's what this looks like. I'm going to take the y squared, all that stuff there, and I know that's y. The number that squares to make 81 is 9. Because that's a minus, I'll make this a minus and square it. 63 plus 81 is 144. Again, they're giving you nice numbers to work with. So now I'll take the square root of both sides. Those go away. So we have y minus 9 equals the square root of 144 is 12, plus or minus 12. I'll move the the 9 to the other side. And so I end up with 9 plus or minus 12 as my solution. 9 plus 12 is 21, and 9 minus 12 is negative 3. And those become my two solutions for number 11. Alright, let's look at number 12. Again, same idea. Back up here real quick. So your solutions, well, I'll leave it there. So number 12. Again, n squared minus 20n plus a c equals a negative 75 plus a c. So we're looking for that first c value. We find that by doing negative 20 over 2 and squaring it. Negative 20 over 2 is negative 10. Negative 10 squared equals 100. So rewriting this, I have n squared minus 20n plus 100 equals negative 75 plus 100. This becomes a perfect square. I have n, and the square number there is 10. It's a negative on the inside, so I'll write a negative n, negative 10 equals negative 75 plus 100 is 25. Again, a nice number to work with. We take the square root of both sides. That goes away. N minus 10 equals plus or minus 5. We'll add 10 to both sides, so n equals 10 plus or minus 5. And that becomes 10 plus 5 is 15, and 10 minus 5 is 5. And those are my two solutions for number 12. Here we go. Let's move down to number 16. Number 16, again, same idea, except this time you can see they've already given you a number here. The problem with this number is that 8 is not a squared number. Okay? So there's a step trick here to make this work, and they show you up in the directions up above. You can look at that again. So what we're going to do for number 16 is we're going to move this 8 over here first of all. And we're going to set this up as m squared minus 2m equals 8. So now our form looks the same as what we just did with numbers 10, essentially 10 through 10 through 13. So maybe I should have stopped at 14 there. So sorry. Okay. So m squared minus 2m equals 8. So these last 5 are very similar. Now I'll use my regular process. I'll do negative 2 over 2 squared. Negative 2 over 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. And that becomes my c value that I'll add to both sides. So m squared minus 2m plus 1 equals 8 plus 1 is what we're doing here. So this becomes m, minus there, minus 1 squared equals 8 plus 1 is 9. Square root of both sides. M minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 9 is 3. We add 1 to both sides, so m equals 1 plus or minus 3. Or 1 plus 3 is 4, 1 minus 3 is minus 2. And those become my two solutions for number 16. I'll do that same process here for number 17 as one more final example for the day. So this becomes s squared plus 6s. And essentially what we're saying is we're going to do plus c equals, moving the negative 1 over, negative 1 plus c. And that's our goal here. We're trying to find that squared number. To do that, we do 6 divided by 2 squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. And we plug that number in. S squared plus 6x plus 9 equals negative 1 plus 9. That's what we're doing because it's not a nice number. Alright, so s squared plus 6s plus 9, we know that becomes s. Square root of 9, or the square root of 9 is going to be 3. It's a positive, so it's a plus 3 squared equals negative 1 plus 9 is 8. So I can already tell I got a little bit of an issue coming up because when I do the square root of both sides, the square root of 8 is not a nice round number like the other ones were. That's okay. We still end up with s plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 8. So we'll subtract 3 and end up with s equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 8. So for this point here, you can use your calculator, that's how I did mine at least, and you'll do negative 3 plus the square root of 8 and negative 3 minus the square root of 8. In doing so, the answers that I came up with were negative 0.17 and negative 5.83. Kind of some crazy numbers, but that's what you get there. So there's some homework help for you for the reteaching exercise on completing the square. Hope that helps, and have a great day.